Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's Your Impact Attack. And we're not even under any pretenses anymore. I guess you're just gonna let us hold it. And so who is us? It's Jamie the Vet Williams, and with me as always my tag team partner Brandon. What's up, Brandon?
Yo, yo.
So we got a nice impact attack for the people, I guess. I'll say that right off the top. I'm I don't know why I said it. We don't, our show is going to be nice. This impact episode, I don't know. Is it nice? Was it good? Was it worth watching?
It was rough to get through. It was pretty rough for me to get through.
I see. Well, we'll talk about that as usual. But so it occurred to me that we wouldn't even be here doing a show at all if it weren't for a man who sadly passed away last week. And they opened this show with a little short tribute. They really didn't have. I don't know what else. If they would have had time to put together more, I don't know if they would have. But Jerry Jarrett, of course, passed away, and we all, most of us heard about that kind of right after it happened. Brady, you said it kind of took you by surprise because you had probably a really busy week, so you find out by watching an episode of Impact.
Yeah, it's like I turn it on and it's like, wait, hold on. When did this happen?
That's right. Well, I guess it happened on last Tuesday, Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that's makes it more of a punch to the gut.
Mm-hmm. So now, for the Jarrett family, that day is a reminder. It's now another anniversary, which really is terrible. But so this news came suddenly to pretty much all of us because, as far as we knew, everything was fine with Jerry. I mean, Jerry was 80, and I guess when I hear that Jerry Jarrett is 80, I think like only 80, because my entire life, you hear pro wrestling talk. Eventually, you're gonna hear. In terms of modern wrestling, you hear a lot of Jerry, like you hear his name mentioned, but I didn't even realize how influential he was. I'll talk about that in a second. So, we talk about Next Level, just a very short little tribute because we didn't know anything at that time or whatever. And I had not, when this episode, or when we heard about Jerry's passing, I had not heard the episode of My World with Jeff Jarrett yet. I usually end up listening to that on like a Wednesday or a Thursday or something like that. Just that's the first chance I get to listen to it. And since they record that episode obviously before the day it's released, usually around maybe the weekend, I think, is when Conrad and Jeff sit down to record that show. So I've already known that Jerry's passed away, but then I listened to the show, and for the first time in public, they talk about Jerry having, cancer of the esophagus. It comes up, and Conrad's like, he's saying like, how much? I don't know how much I'm supposed to talk about this. Is he going to get mad at me? I don't want to say anything. So, I found out after the fact from them recording before the fact. So it's got to have been a devastating. They were positive and hopeful about it, but you know. So I was just sitting there, and I'm at work because that's when I listen to a lot of my shows or whatever, and just hearing Jeff get choked up about it, and me already knowing the future. like got me choked up.
Yeah.
Like I was
Ye-
actually like crying at work a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty eerie and foreboding.
Yeah. So um so that sucked. But then you got Jim Cornette, which, you know, you guys know I'm a Jim Cornette listener. I'm never going to miss an episode of his shows. And I don't consider myself a wrestling historian, but he is. And, you know, when he lays out the entire history of Jerry Jarrett's involvement in the business from him getting into it and everything that he's done since, it really paints a picture of just, I mean, we all know he's influential, but we take it as like face value, like, oh, people say Jerry Jarrett's been around since whatever and he's done whatever and yada yada yada. And we're like, yep, I'm sure he did. But when you really hear it spelled out from A to Z by somebody like Jim, who was there for a lot of it, um, he it's like so much of what we have now, what we consider to be modern wrestling or whatever, is due in large part to Jerry and the way he was revolutionary in terms of being able to be there with the Welches when they basically invented the entire idea of what we call Southern wrestling and learn from those guys and become a referee and become a wrestler and then become a booker and then become a promoter, you know, going through those steps and doing those things all the way up till, you know, he like the ideas that he had or the kind of wrestling that was going on there, we wouldn't have gotten an ECW out of that, or we wouldn't have gotten a attitude era out of that, where people are like, you know, the idea of hardcore wrestling, where guys are fighting with trash cans and stuff like that. A lot of the stuff from the Memphis days with Lawler and them and Bill Dundee and everything, like a lot of that was like a precedent for what we're seeing today. We're not seeing a lot of original stuff. I mean, we all know that the WWF wasn't original. They just, you know, Vince Jr. bought the company from his old man. So it's not like he created it from scratch like Tony Khan or something. And he took all the other territory wrestlers who already knew how to work and were trained in that. And then they want to make it like it's their own thing, but they're just doing what a lot of the stuff from Memphis was doing. And when ECW took that and made it into its own thing, they just quietly tried to do the same thing like the ECW was doing, and then just act like they're the ones that are pioneering everything. But without Jerry Jarrett, I don't know if any of that happens. And certainly, without Jerry, we're not doing Impact Attack because, you know, it was Jerry and Jeff who co-founded Total Nonstop Action, you know, in 2002. And Jerry was a big part of it at the beginning. So, you know, all the way up till now. And the most recent times that we seen him was on the Tales from the Territories show that on Vice that The Rock helped produce and everything like that. So, you know, we all thought, I guess I thought everything was fine with Jerry. So I didn't think anything about it, but it's like, you know, the more people like Jerry that we lose, you know, I feel like the bleaker the future for wrestling is, because you're going to have just that many less people that are able to pass on the knowledge to people that will pass it on. I'm sure Jerry's passed on a lot of knowledge. I don't know how many people are going to continue on passing that knowledge down, you know? So just it really is kind of a big loss. And we're all going to feel it whether we know it or not, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You have any Jerry Jarrett stories or memories or anything? How you know, how do you go from being just a regular old wrestling fan to then when you actually learn more about, you know, what goes on behind the scenes and everything? And, you know, when do you hear of a Jerry Jarrett or see his influence?
I mainly see it in the booking and the well, I guess you could say writing and booking of the wrestling. Like it went from like he was the guy who pioneered like making stuff personal. Like his motto was personal issues draw money,
Right.
and he was basically the father of that.
Yep. Before that, it was like all just pure sport, I guess, quote unquote.
Right? He is. I think it was from him that it was essentially it evolved into a soap opera,
That's right.
or at least in one direction anyway.
Yes. Yeah, man. I didn't get to grow up on the old Memphis stuff, but I'm sure that if I did, I would see a lot of this stuff today and be even more tired of it than I already
Right.
am.
But man, who could forget like Lawler Kaufman?
Right. Well, I think people forget about it all the time, sadly.
I mean, that was an absolute work of brilliance.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I wish I knew more so I could tell you all like the history myself, but Canada Spaceman asks, did Jerry Jarrett teach Jim Cornette how to yell when going through a drive-through and how to threaten to shoot a gun at them if they got the order wrong? I don't know. Right. Irrelevant. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and hear like that A to Z from Cornette, and I think it was on the I don't remember what episode it was, probably the drive through, but if you go to his shows and look, you'll see which one he talks about Jerry Jarrett, and it's worth listening to because it's harder. He's a lot better, more eloquent, more knowledgeable speaker than I am. So when he explains all this stuff, I felt like, yeah, that does justice to the legacy of a guy. And Jim just rattled it off offhandedly on the top of his show as a topic. He talked for like 30 minutes or something like that. I don't know. He's able to do that because he knows all this stuff.
And he's Jim Cornette, and that stuff just comes to him like that.
Right. So he's a real combination of being on and entertaining, but just having this encyclopedic knowledge and memory, even if it's flawed in a couple of spots. Like Jim knows his version of things a lot of times, and that's like I've heard him speaking on subjects that I have firsthand knowledge of, and I know that he only knows what he thinks he knows and what he heard. But when it comes to like documented history and stuff, he has like documents. He has like tons of old programs, from events, and he has everything from just the posters to his own like notes and notebooks that he took on his wrestling journey. So he's got a lot of that type of just pure historic knowledge, the kind of stuff we used to count on Dave Meltzer for mostly, but now, it's more about people only think about his rating of matches, but he also had, a lot of that documentation focus on yes, this is the stuff that happened, not necessarily the editorial part of it. So I would highly encourage anybody that's interested, check out Jim Cornette's podcasts and listen to him talk about Jerry Jarrett. I learned a lot, even though I thought I knew, like, yeah, Jerry Jarrett. Yep, he's an influence. Yep, I know he was there through all these things. Yep, but I didn't really know how much. So I hope the Jarrett family is doing as well as they can be right now.
Yep. And thank God that him and Jeff were able to reconcile.
Yes. Oh man, yes. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that'll mess you up if you don't get to do that. So, but yeah. So we'll leave it at that. I don't really think anything else is going on majorly, but if you guys think of anything, you can save that for maybe a Q&A, AMA portion at the end of the show. Hold your questions till the end, please. Everybody, hold your questions. But who's everybody? I mean, should we acknowledge some of these rowdy fans?
Let's
Maybe
acknowledge the
interrupt.
chat. The C of the VBC.
That's right.
All right, well, tonight we got Buckshot Kid, we got Canada Spaceman, we got Elizabeth, Hobby Uchida, Lab Rat, we got Hatebot, yeah, pal.
Here you go. That's a good crew to start with. Hopefully, a few more will file in as we go. And let's see, what else is there anything else? Oh, we had the elimination chamber over the weekend. I didn't watch the entire elimination chamber, but I did have time to watch the main event because it is highly anticipated and built. So, when you actually get something that they put effort into building, um, then it's nice to see in the WWE. It doesn't happen. I mean, they always think they build to things, but it's not like a lot of it just feels like slapdash. But this, no one could call the Bloodline, Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes, everything. You can't really call that slapdash. It's pretty much as good as it's going to get from them, or most people anyway. So, Brandon, did you have a chance to check out any of the stuff surrounding the chamber this weekend?
I did not, unfortunately. I was pretty busy.
Yeah. Um, well, it was. I would highly encourage everybody to go check out the main event at least, or even just watch the just watch Sammy make an entrance. You know, feel the emotion in the building. Feel what over looks like. You know, I think that's worth watching for anyone.
Although to be fair though, that was his hometown crowd.
It was his hometown crowd.
But I'm not going to say that he would not get a fantastic reaction anywhere else.
Yeah.
Just there, it was much more special and intimate.
Mm-hmm. It was. And we've also seen a lot of people in their hometowns that don't
Right.
get a reaction like
Right.
this.
Right.
But it's
was-
more so the moment, like the moment when you see it and you let it sink in just how big it is. So that's more so important even than the match. The match was what it was. They kind of I think they kind of blew it toward the end with the overbooking of it, but the beginning,
the match is more of a backdrop.
right? So yeah, but yeah, I it reminds me of Big Ray put out a post about how it really and hold all your questions till the end. Big Ray put out a post about how inspired he felt because it was like what he saw from that was what he missed about wrestling and what he started watching wrestling in the hopes of seeing things like that moment. So, it was a pretty big deal. But I sure wish they would have done it a little bit differently. But nonetheless, good moment. I still got to go back and watch the rest of it. Why, I don't know. Just call me a glutton for punishment or call me OCD or whatever else. Yeah. But yeah, all right. Well, I think it's time to
Where do you think it's going? Where do you think it's going with them? It may be looking like it's probably going to be, Cody and Reigns for the world belts, and then Sammy and Zayn against the Usos for the tag belts. I'm sorry, Sammy and KO.
Yeah, I think that's an obvious idea. That's been a rumored idea. I think it's kind of a cheap idea, but I don't know what else.
I'd like to see us. This is where you kind of go with the swerve and go where they don't expect you to go and keep Sammy involved in the main event somehow.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they won't do that. I'm almost certain they won't do that. But it's also like, well, how can you go? How can you go to make the what? Who cares about tag team championships now? Maybe they'll be able to talk their way into making us believe it, but just on the surface of it, like I don't like it. But we'll see. We'll let them convince us.
Yeah, because maybe they can use the heat and the everything that's been built between the relationships between Sammy and the Usos, especially Jay, to kind of draw that drive the storyline, and the Belter is kind of a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, mild spoilers ahead. For those of you who haven't watched the Elimination Chamber and were hoping to catch it without getting spoiled, I won't spoil everything, but it may come as a shock to you that Sami Zayn is not the undisputed Universal Champion right now. First of all, let's just calm everybody's delicate hearts. Try not to go into cardiac arrest, but he didn't actually win it. But there was a lot of shenanigans involved, and Jay remained neutral in this entire exchange. Although Sammy did accidentally hit him with a kick. It looks very similar to, the way we went off the air on this episode of Impact, but he did not, he's that wild card still, where if you did have a match with the Usos, it's like, he's not going to be 100% into it in terms of like, I definitely am on Roman's side when it comes to Sammy. Jay's still in the middle as of Elimination Chamber, so we'll see what happens. Sonic the Hedge Rat. When was the last time we saw Sonic the Hedge Rat here in the chat? He's only here to correct me when I make a mistake. But yeah, that's right. He speared him. Anyway, we'll see if that spear hurts Jay's feelings enough to put him back on the family's corner. But what's intriguing about it is the way that Jay was the first reluctant member of the Bloodline. The guy that was beaten into submission and forced to stand at Roman's side. That's what makes... It's not like... It's been going on so long that maybe some people have forgotten that... Jay was the first opponent of this new and improved Roman Reigns. You know what I mean? He was the first program. He had to be forced to acknowledge the tribal chief.
Yep. And wasn't it because motivation was because he wanted to stand out and be different?
I think he just didn't like what Roman was. He didn't like Roman's new attitude.
Yeah. So. I do remember one during one of his promos, one of the lines he said was, "I get tired of hearing, 'Hey, Oos, which one are you?'"
Right. Yeah, it was good stuff that we didn't know how far it was going to end up going when it started, but it's definitely become the only compelling TV they're doing. Let's put it that way. Like, to the point that what I'm saying here, when we've got these Sami Zayn and all this drama and these moments, these emotions and these other things, and then on the undercard you got what? Like what do you got? It's you're failing your main event. You're doing a disservice to your entire company. You're either outshining everything else so bad that you make your whole company look bad, or everybody else is falling behind the main event so bad that it looks bad. But either way, it looks bad. But anyway.
Hopefully that kind of gets them thinking, hey, if we're getting good reviews and ratings and numbers with this, do it across the board.
All right. Well, in fairness, too, Triple H inherited this, and he's trying to. I've seen him making like nip tucks along the way. He's not going with the full surgery, dissecting everything. You know, like he's just kind of like tweaking things here and there, and I think he's gonna steer the ship where he wants it. And also, unlike other people, I don't think Triple H is the kind of guy that's gonna really sit down and write out shows. I think he's just approving things, possibly suggesting things, and accepting lots of suggestions. So that can be why, if he's letting the writers do their jobs, that can be why sometimes it's hit or miss, because he's not going to be willing to shred a script at 3 p.m. and write it from scratch. Triple H ain't writing nothing. Okay, I'm sorry to burst everyone's bubble who thinks Triple H is fucking sitting there at a laptop writing out the format of Raw. He's just there to be like what he's supposed to be, you know, the final touches, the approval process, you know. And sometimes when you delegate to other people, they don't give you exactly what you want. So you got to be like, okay, for this week, but moving forward, we'll change this, and this. So it's going to take a while. The whole bloodline stuff, that had to have been Heyman from the beginning. It had to. So Triple H didn't have to worry about that. That's off his plate. He knows that stuff's going to be good. So he can let Paul do that. Why do I know it's Paul Heyman? Because we saw what happened with Vince and Roman. We were getting Suffer and Succotash and, you know, Jack and the Beanstalk. And, you know, that's Vince's idea of how to push Roman. Nobody liked it. All of a sudden, Paul Heyman's there. Come on. He had to have Paul Heyman must have just beaten Vince into submission and said, just allow me, sir, allow me. And then Vince, like, all right, damn it, just stop talking to me. So here we are. But anyway, all right, enough about them. Let's talk about a real company founded by a real wrestling promoter, Jerry Jarrett, Impact Wrestling. So as usual, we get our recap package to open, just in case anybody's deciding this is going to be their first episode of Impact. We get a small narrated tribute to Jerry from Tom, you know, right at the start. Then we do the recap, and then we go into our opening match, which we always get a nice little opening match. This time it's Chris Bay versus Kushida. So this is a preview of the 6-man tag that they're going to have at No Surrender. The announcer said this is Chris Bay's first singles match in a year on Impact. Has it been a year?
It's been pretty long. Maybe not a year, but definitely pretty long. Like, I legit cannot remember the last time he was in one. Like, last time I can even think of it, Jay White was around still. Him and the Good Brothers.
Right. And was he getting singles then? It seems like he's always in a tag with somebody.
Yeah, because, like, I remember Jay White was tagging with him a lot around that time.
Right. So, yeah. I don't know, but that's what they said, but who knows? Yes. So I just had, you know, and I'm sure you probably thought the same thing. It's a fine opener. It's a fine finish, but why beat anyone right now when you're building to another match and all the partners are right there? Like, you had the Guns out there. You had Ace Austin out there. You could have done some kind of a double DQ or count out or just otherwise not pin a guy to get people more interested to see a conclusion in the match that they're trying to sell you. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. It could be a case of it being like, these guys are friends. They want to have a, you know, face-face feud or face-face match. which we've seen doesn't always work. You got to have, not all the time, something you can have face depending on situation and the people involved. Sometimes fans want to see just somebody to cheer for and somebody to boo. I guess in this case, didn't really work that well.
Well, I'm just saying, why beat anybody? I mean, right. It wasn't. It technically, it's, to me, if I'm looking at it just from the surface, I think a Bullet Club are the heels anyway. So I don't even see a face match. I mean, but even if it is, you know, it could just be a thing where the Bullet Club is supposed to be heels. I don't care if people think that they're cool, but the whole idea of them, if you're going to stay true to it, is that they're just going to ruin everybody's fun. That's what the Bullet Club's supposed to do. You take a promotion like New Japan that is more no nonsense, like, you know, straight laced sport, and then you introduce the Bullet Club into it, and it's a lot of things that people don't like. That was the idea of it. So you continue to use them to play the spoilers of things that people like, and it only makes sense that somebody would be like, you had a good opportunity here. You could have, you know, like, I think, you know, Kushida, submission specialist, could have had, and I think he did at some point. He had Chris Bay in some sort of a submission or whatever. And that, if you could just have somebody in a submission somewhat close to the ropes where they're reaching for it and can't get it, and then you have like Ace Austin just reach in with the cane and like hit Kushida in the face with the cane.
DQ, there you go.
Boom, right there. And then you get a little scuffle and then get people out to break it up. And now it's like, oh shit, what's going to happen when they have the 6-man tag and Kenta shows up, you know, like that. So, you know, but no, let's just pin Chris Bay. You know, just. Okay. So now the message that sends is, well, he's the most vulnerable person in this 6-man. That's what it tells me psychologically. Like, well, he could get beat again. Hey, let's all go after Chris Bay in this match, everybody.
Right. When Chris Bay is a guy who should be getting built for Impact's future.
Yep. So. Yep. But, you know, and then I always think back to that unhappy Chris Bay tweet, you know. And then here we are. So, yeah. But yeah, that's, you know, whatever. We'll see what happens when Kenta's there. Kenta is now as of the Battle in the Valley, Kenta is now the New Japan Strong Openweight champion, which is basically their version of it's like their main title there. So he defeated Fred Rosser, who you guys may remember as Darren Young, to claim that belt. So Kenta's walking into that match with some gold. So we got some strong gold with the guns and some strong gold with Kenta. So there you go. There's a little extra minor layer of intrigue to the whole thing. Now here's some other intrigue. Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer sit down with Santino in a room that's got a gross pink light shining on the wall somewhere. You can go to @OpinionHaver on Twitter to see a nice collage of photos that lend credence to Brandon's theory that it is Santino who's brought the lighting arrangements back. But nonetheless, Santino suggested, speaking of New Japan Strong, all right, right off the bat, Hatebot coming in. Speaking of New Japan Strong, who's shelling out $20 to watch Sasha Banks on pay-per-view? All right, anybody else? Any other questions? I mean, people shelled out a lot more than $20 to go see her at the event. So, CM Punk included. I don't know if CM Punk got in for free. But, anyway. So yeah, Santino's idea is to have a live Busted Open with Dave LaGreca for these guys to sit down and hash out their differences because they don't want to do this anymore. And then so they end up doing a little back and forth, whatever. And then they have this, so it's basically decided by Santino because Bully wants to go first, whatever that means. Like, I kind of thought, hey, when we do the Impact Attack, Brandon, I know I talk a lot, but do I say the entire show first and then I give you a turn to do the rest of the show? Is that how we do it here? Have we ever done it like that?
Not that I can recall.
Does it even sound like it would work?
No.
Oh.
That doesn't sound like that would work under any circumstances.
Right. So, but yeah, for some reason, that's a big deal to Bully, and he's threatening about if he doesn't get to go first, whatever that means. So Santino says we're going to get a beat the clock challenge to decide who gets to talk first.
And I think you get some more credence to your theory of he's just doing this as he goes along. Because he's kind of had that, oh, yeah, like, I just thought of that just now look on his face.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much what he's doing, right? I mean, I wasn't wrong in that. But that's what he's good at. He's good at not only improvising, but making it look like he's improvising. We do have another qualifier though next. But before we move on to that, was there anything that you thought about this particular sit down with Bully and Tommy here?
It's just they're fighting over his two 50-year-old men are fighting over who gets to go first in a debate. Like, that does not seem a little silly?
Yes. It also seems silly when Tommy's sitting there like, what was he? He was acting doing some childish thing. I can't remember. It's like I can be a dick too, or whatever. Like,
yeah. Yep.
I forget what he was. It doesn't matter if anybody's sitting here, to the point about who's paying to see Sasha Banks. Like, who's watching this for free? Burt Macklin versus Rhino is our qualifying match for the number one contenders. This is another Santino thing. We're getting a fatal four-way to determine the number one contender, and to qualify for the fatal four-way, we have to have a series of singles matches. So Macklin hits the wake-up call on Rhino after about 7. That's my notes. I don't really have much to add on this.
Yeah, all I got is, well, we know who's going over, and I'm not sure where they're going with him using the finishers on them other than just to stick it to him, but then it's like, is it going to lead to another match with these guys or what? So obviously he'd have a problem with him doing that.
Well, that's going to come into play later on in the show.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yes. So a little foreshadowing. Macklin must have like already had the whole thing bracketed out in his head. And he was like, okay, well, I'll just, if I win this match and Heath wins his match, then I'll face Heath. So if I use Heath's finisher, that'll get in his head, and that's some psychological warfare on if he wins.
Yeah, but it's a four-way. But it's not a tournament. It's a four-way.
No, but yeah, exactly, right. So, well, the it's not a tournament, but think about this. Well, what if Heath didn't win his qualifying match? It's like, what? Okay, now what? But yeah. So, any thoughts on the actual match with Rhino and Macklin?
I mean, not really. It was just a get over match for Macklin.
Okay. Here we have next Masha with Gia and no music underneath, but there is lighting in the back. It's red and it's disgusting. It looks like this should be. Looks like they did the interview in Killer Kelly's room or something. Yep. She speaks Russian again, but the gist of what she's saying is she wants Mickey to have a front row seat to watch her break Alicia. So there you go. More Masha Russian. I guess I'll take it. It's just hard to look at with that wall in the background. Any other thoughts?
I mean, no, I'm digging Masha's character, but they got a bit of a ways to go to rebuild her and make her feel more like a threat again after how they kind of wrecked her aura with Jordan Grace.
Yeah. It's just too damn bad.
They had something there when had her on that streak.
I mean, I thought so, but no. Yeah. All right. Well, Rich Swann warms up for his main event match, and then we get what everybody's waiting for. They've been very excited in the chat about this. Johnny Swinger is supposed to come out and face the person that Zicky Dice found that he knows Swinger can beat. There's no way he can't beat him. And that person is Barry Horowitz. It's Barry Horowitz. Were you excited to see Barry Horowitz here?
I thought that was pretty cool. Getting a well-known and well-loved jobber for that role I thought that was very creative and smart. And then having him go over was even better.
It was creative and smart. As a recap, I'm sitting here telling you what happened. I think it does work very well. But in reality, watching it, it was, Barry Horowitz more like barely able to walk at this point. Not in shape. Most of the match took place in the corner so that he wouldn't fall down. And the one time he did fall down, it was the finish. So the demon came out. I'm sure everybody had that. It's just so obvious that they'd have the demon do a run in. The guy gets dressed up in this costume to walk out on the stage so that Barry Horowitz could take an abdominal stretch and turn it into a pin and go 1-0 in Impact competition. So Swinger's still looking for that first win, guys. He didn't get it. Not even on Horowitz. Yeah. Everybody loves it. The chat, I mean. They're over the moon for Barry Horowitz. I guess they didn't see what I saw. I guess I'm all for the spot, right? But as soon as I saw him trying to make his way down the ramp, I just felt bad. I was like, please don't trip. Please don't get hurt. Please. And he might have. Maybe this was horrible and they edited it together what they could. But, he never left the side of the ring because he had to use the ropes to hold himself up. The whole match took place in the corner. All right.
It was a fun spot.
Yeah. Again, fun in theory, but I don't know. I felt bad watching it. Well, there you go. Next is Moose with Gia and no music underneath. Moose says he doesn't get humiliated. He gets even because he's referencing how you know, Joe Hendry humiliates everybody. That's his thing. That's his deal. And it happened to Cardona and Myers, but it doesn't happen to him because he gets even. All right. So we go to break. And then he goes outside after the break, and he has got a bat that he had from the promo, and he sees what he believes to be Joe Hendry's car, and he starts swinging the bat, and after a few swings, he manages to crack the side window. So these are definitely either this bat's not reinforced, this window is reinforced, or this was just why Moose didn't play baseball. But it
got rejected from baseball.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's smashing the car, and then Santino runs out and he's like, what are you doing to my car? And it's like, this is Joe Hendry's car. And it's like, really? And he uses the little auto lock thing, his alarm, to prove that it's his car. And then Joe Hendry shows up, and then Santino makes a match that's going to be dot combat at No Surrender and all this stuff. So it's a good thing that all the parties were very close by outside in the parking lot, like right after Moose started swinging. This could have been awkward if this went on for several minutes, and then we had to go back inside to another match that was scheduled or whatever. I'm glad everybody was just standing around outside like they should have been. Joe Hendry standing outside in his gear with the belt on, even though he didn't have a match on this show. just right off screen watching Moose smash a car. Very convenient. But other than that, there you go.
And all Santino or Moose would have had to do was say his name, and then Joe Hendry being there would have made sense.
All you had to say. So, I mean, Moose said his name during the promo and he didn't appear. I guess that's because he was outside in the parking lot already and he didn't hear it.
Well, I think the phrase was, you don't say, it's not you say Joe Hendry, you say his name.
Yeah. And Buckshot Kid with the excellent point of, I was thinking the money to repair the window didn't need that spot. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, Canada Spaceman had said, I want to hear how the vet spins how Moose is not dumb by smashing the wrong car window. I'm not going to spin it. I can't spin it. There's nothing to spin.
It's bad booking, bad writing, whatever you want to call it.
Right. And bad budgeting, because now you got to fix a window. And no one ever watched this. Everybody that watched this is sitting here right now in the chat or on this show.
And it made him look weak. He couldn't even break the window.
Right. You didn't think you could edit that either?
Or hey, let's find a car with a window that you can actually, that's not super reinforced military grade.
Yeah. Is this Macklin's car? Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. They did what they did. So let's see. All right. Any other final thoughts on that whole thing?
Nah, that's not, Moose is not the guy you do the, you destroyed the wrong car thing. As he's not the guy for that.
Yeah, you're right.
If a comedy character, sure. Moose, no.
No.
This guy should be smashing the shit out of the car.
Right. Or he should be above that. Yeah,
he'd be a lot more methodical than that.
Right. Sonic the Hedgehog says should have used that Elon Musk truck window. Yeah. So, all right. Well, next is Fat Eddie versus Fat Heath in a qualifying match for that Fatal 4-Way. Yeah, I'm really not going to come up with a play-by-play for this one either. But the lights go out, and then there's lightning, and then the Wake Up Call wins a second qualifying match tonight. As Heath is able to beat Fat Eddie. And then PCO appears and then tries to jump on Eddie, but Eddie rolls out and escapes. So what if Eddie won and then Macklin just used that finisher for no reason, right? It's almost like tipping the hand. Like we almost, we would normally think Heath would go over in this match. But because we've seen that little hint, we're like, okay, Heath probably going to pull this one out. Also, you knew they were going to, you couldn't just have Heath win clean. There's got to be a Frankenstein monster to come in and do speaking of Memphis, you got to have a Frankenstein monster come in and, interfere in the match. So, of course Heath is going to win. And now these guys can beef about who can, jump up and grab a guy and fall down. Yeah. So there you go. Our qualifiers for the Fatal 4-Way are so far. I guess we'll have the other two next week, but
we already have them, I think.
Well, do we?
I believe so. It was.
Oh, did they do it the previous week?
I believe so. Yes.
I already forgot.
Oh yeah, because they had to do it because the show's this Friday. Or this week.
Yeah, but we still got another Thursday though.
So. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, you guys can tell me who's in the match if you know. I'll turn to our statisticians in the chat, but yeah, at least these two guys.
Although I will say I laughed my ass off in this when Tom Hannafan said that PCO is obsessed with getting his hands on Eddie Edwards, while Eddie Edwards is 20 feet in front of him. All he does is just standing around the ring going, "Ah!"
He's trying to sell it. Yeah. Well, whatever. So next is the what do you call it? The design. The design is explaining their steps again to Callahan. I almost called him the wrong name. It's just Callahan now. And step 5 is show up next week and find out what step 5 is. So all right, there we go. Another waste of time. I don't think I included this in my hideous lighting collage on Twitter, so because they always do stuff like this. So
nothing new.
Yeah. And nothing new that these guys had to say either. It's just the same old shit. Then we get Father James Mitchell and the Hex doing a promo, also hideously lit, but again, you would expect that from them. Mitchell has some devil stuff to attend to, so he's got to leave, but he basically just says a bunch of stuff and then leaves the Hex confused. I don't know. What did you think about this?
Yeah, I liked Mitchell's stuff, but when the girls spoke, it was that really bad, like cringe, cheesy wrestling promo. I mean, in character, but still like in that context.
Mm-hmm. The statistician Liz says Brian Myers and PCO are the other two. So there you go.
Yes, that's who it was.
Hatebot said, pretty sure this is Raven's 7 Deadly Sins angle that he's always talking about wanting to do on TV. The design thing? I mean, I don't know. Some of these steps were just, hey, win this match against this guy. So I don't know if that's a sin that was in the Bible or whatever. Like, win, thou shalt not win a wrestling match or something. I don't know. I don't think this is...
They're definitely not as creative as Raven is.
No. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, all right. Moving on. Mickey on commentary for Alicia versus Masha, like we she was invited to be front row seat. Alicia has her ass out with her gear, which is funny. This don't last long, as you can imagine. Without the proper nourishment, you can't hope to compete in a professional wrestling environment, so you'll quickly get fatigued and snowplowed. And that's what we saw here. And then Masha gets a little choky after the match, and Mickey fights off Masha, and wardrobe malfunctions as she gets in the ring. So we're just getting a little bit more intrigue built for No Surrender. What's going to happen when these two face off?
I thought it was interesting that they mentioned that Masha slapped the same submission move on that Mickey tapped to during the Jordan match. And they're playing it up like she saw that and that's what she's going for.
That's nice. I didn't really put that together, but since you say that, that is a good booking idea.
Like, you never really see like them have like the wrestlers noticing like the previous matches and going, oh, she actually tapped that. I'm going for that.
Yeah, which you would think a lot of people would, right? Like,
yeah, I
figure we're all scouting for potential opponents at all times. You'd think we'd pay attention to things that actually happen in the ring once in a while, right?
Yeah, like, oh, that works, so I'm going to do that.
Right. Yeah, that's and you know, it's funny. We see this in Masha Slamovich matches, and we've seen other things in Masha Slamovich matches. Do you think maybe that even as young in the business as she is, that these are some of like her ideas? Because we see smart stuff from her in her matches. We don't really see them from a lot of the other people. So could this be something that she's actually like pitching and smart enough to do herself? Or does she just get the agents that pay attention to the product?
It really could possibly be any of those options. I can speak from experience, at least from my own experience, when I wouldn't get much from creative and booking, so I would just start coming up with stuff that we could thread from match to match. Like, for example, there was one time when we had a finish where I went over with a handful of tights, and then the next month we were in the same building, me and the same guy, same ref, went for that same finish again. This time the ref caught it. We argue. I turn around into the other guy's finish. He pins me that time.
Oh, I see. Good storytelling. Was the finish the wake-up call, by the way?
No.
Oh.
Actually is Matt Hardy side effect.
Oh.
So
that's like a front-facing wake-up call.
Exactly. It's like the reverse of that.
Huh. Well, it all ties together. So this is real long-term booking. You actually waited all these years to be on a show where some guy used the finishers of anyway. This is one of the matches that I'm actually, I would like to watch on this No Surrender. I'm looking at No Surrender card and thinking, ugh, but there are a couple on here, and this would be one of them. Anything else on this whole deal?
Nah, I'm liking it.
Okay.
We should see something with. I'd like to see Masha destroy Mickey, and then on the next one leading into the show, into the pay-per-view.
That's interesting. I would rather they not touch as much as possible. So we got our own preferences on that. Trey Miguel, his symbol. Crazy Steve says that Trey Miguel's symbol is not going to represent his initials anymore. It's going to represent the biggest mistake of his life. Because if he puts the X Division title on the line, then Crazy Steve will leave him alone, win, lose, or draw. Only thing is, the match is going to be a Monsters Ball match. So, yeah.
I like the thought process and motivation of Crazy Steve of him wanting to taint something that Trey Miguel identifies with by saying like, so now whenever you see your own like logo, it makes you think of me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not bad. It's not a bad promo. Elaborate asks if Impact trying to get Mountain Dew to sponsor a lights out match for Crazy Steve. Yeah. I mean, in fairness, I think Crazy Steve was doing this black light thing long before, but it's not a bad question. It's going to be a limited time, too. I mean, Pitch Black isn't going to be around forever. Got to get it. So,
what up, Colin?
Yeah, Colin joining. Even though as he's texting me in the middle of doing the show, asking me questions, then he must have just remembered I was doing a show. But yes, we got a Monsters Ball, Trey Miguel, and Crazy Steve. Not looking forward to it. Then Kenny King warms up, and then we get 2 weeks ago on BTI, Jonathan Gresham challenged Mike Bailey. Last week on BTI, Mike Bailey accepted. And Santino makes the challenge official. He brings the guys into that room with the empty canvases that have light shining on them. And Dango suggests that they team up and have a match against the Machine Guns as like a scouting report. Like team up with each other to face the Motor City Machine Guns, and then I don't know. I guess that's as far as they thought of it. But Santino likes the idea.
I think I see the idea he's suggesting was so they get to know each other and learn each other's styles better. Like basically get like a front row seat to watch the other one wrestle.
Right. Well, apparently all you got to do is just watch BTI, and then you can see both these guys. Right. Yeah. And then, so, you know, of course, the comedy bit that they're doing with Dango and Santino is that Dango wants to be the assistant director of authority, deputy, and he keeps coming up with ideas that Santino likes, even though, you know, the subversion of expectations is that he would come up with a stupid idea, but every time he comes up with an idea, it's a good idea. So Santino keeps not making him an assistant, but still agreeing with his ideas. And then Horowitz walks in, and after getting his one win, he wants the 50-match deal that... So this is kind of like the most bargain basement version of like the favored nations thing. like, hey, I want that deal. I want the 50-match deal. And then Santino's like, all right, well, we'll put you in a match with Rhino. And he's like, you know what? I think I'll go out on top. I'll take my one and I'll go out on top. So
that made the whole thing.
Yep.
Barry Horowitz gets to be undefeated in Impact.
So yeah, there was that, which was funny. And we got our two, but I don't know why, but Jonathan Gresham just looked funny sitting there in his glasses. And what did he have on? Like a I don't know. He just looked funny. He was just smiling, quiet. You know, the opposite of how you imagine him storming in the locker room with a copy of PWI 500 and his place on it. You know, like, he's a good guy. So
give me a push, Tony.
Yeah. There you go. So yeah. All right. Anything else on this?
No, I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny.
I mean, if you get, you know, Dirty Dango and Santino Marella know what they're doing, right? So if you put them in any segment, you got a good high probability of funny. And the main event is Kenny King versus Rich Swann. I ignored most of this. I assume it was fine. It sounded fine. Do you have any thoughts on the actual match itself? I didn't mean to ignore it. I just happened to be busy, and I was like, I'm not running this back. It's going on, and I'm not rewinding it. I'm just gonna have to. I'll lean on Brandon for this one.
Oh man, I mean, it was a decent match, but at the same time, like, why exactly were they having it? Why not have it be where, like, okay, Kenny, you think you're this delusional, you think you should be in my spot? Okay, I'll put my title shot on the line, and if you beat me, you got it. Make this match mean more. Add a little bit more drama to it, other than it's just they're wrestling for wrestling's sake.
Well,
I thought this needed a little bit more than that, and I think that would have been a decent way to at least put a little more sizzle to the steak.
Yeah, it could have. I don't disagree with that. There's no reason that you couldn't do that.
Especially since he went over anyway.
Right. It doesn't change your plans at all. It would just change. It adds more to Kenny King's character. Like, he seems to be very conniving and thoughtful. Like, he's going to try to employ some psychological warfare ahead of time on these guys. Getting in Rich Swann's face and telling him, you only have this spot because, you're getting a favor from your friend and this other stuff. It's just his way of, like, in a way, it's his way of doing the whole, hey, people aren't talking about me thing, which is, the heel thing that he was accused of. Yeah, so, I mean, Rich punched him in the mouth. That's what he got for sticking his nose in his business. And because that's not enough to just leave it, we got to have a wrestling match after that. And the finish is Rich Swann counters Kenny's move into a horrible small package that shouldn't have beat anybody, but that was the planned finish. So, oh well. It doesn't matter if it looks bad. You got to lay there and get pinned in it. So there you go. There's that. And then, that's not enough for Kenny. So he goes after Rich, and then Josh runs in to make the save. And then Rich goes for the super kick on Kenny and hits Josh, and Kenny leaves and he laughs at him. And then we go off the air with that. Like as if that needed to be, oh, I can't believe you kicked me in the face on accident. Now our match is serious at No Surrender. I don't know if we needed it. It's tired, but whatever. They did what they did. Did it add one layer of intrigue to this match for you? Or are you like me where you're just like, it's going to be the same match no matter what?
Maybe if they had a little bit more time to build up to it and Kenny King to kind of play puppet master, maybe a little bit more heat to it and intrigue.
Yeah.
But, like I said, only one more show till the show.
Yeah. And we'll see if anybody that wasn't here on this episode will show up again. We'll see how well they can get us to want to buy No Surrender on a 24-hour notice.
And where has Killer Kelly been? Disappeared once more. It's like she can't win matches, so she just vanishes.
Yeah, Gia's is using her room for interviews now. So, yeah, I don't know, guys. No Surrender. Well, you tell us what you think about No Surrender. Are you on the fence about watching No Surrender? Is anything going to push you over that fence and get you into the No Surrender watching mode? You let us know what you guys think right now. And if you guys have anything that you want to, the questions you held at the beginning, feel free to ask them now. Or if you ask questions during the show and I missed it, because I told you to hold them, then please re-ask the question now. But that's it for the Impact episode. I spent a lot of time not watching the matches. I mean, I did watch them, but I was like, I can't take notes on this. There's nothing. They're fine. Like everybody's matches It's fine. It is what it is. It's for the people in attendance. And for me, like, they're not doing as much. They're not doing stuff for me to comment on. Either they're not doing anything so amazing that I'm like, ooh, I haven't seen that. Let me bring that up. Or they're not doing anything where they're messing stuff up that bad. That's why I said, like, I didn't really watch the Rich Swann and Kenny King match. I trusted those guys to be able to have a nice match, so I didn't really think I needed to. But that's not why I didn't watch it. But I just was like, it's fine. But you know, maybe something did happen in the match. I don't know. Just don't really have, even when I sit there and just watch it with my eyeballs for the full length of the show, I rarely have any like real specific comments on the match. So, what happened to Mike Bailey, Dairy Farmers of America's Missing Wrestler of the Week? Well, we told you.
Yeah, he was on the show this week.
He was on BTI accepting challenges, and then he was on Impact standing around while the challenges were made official. So, all right. And Colin asking me the question that he asked already. I already finished the One Piece game, Colin. I finished it. I'm done. Took over 100 hours, but I finished it. Yeah. And it's not, it's very mediocre. So there you go. Buckshot Kid saying, still no Sue Young. She is working the indies and they're on the roster page. Yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah, the last time she was on the show, they showed her she was still doing the Demon Bride and visibly pregnant. Like they actually showed her stomach, and that's the last we saw of her. Like it's insinuating like she was about to give birth to some kind of demon baby.
And Kimber Lee was there.
Yep.
And what's her name?
Brandy something. Brandy Lauren?
Yeah, Brandy Lauren. Javi said Colin doesn't even watch One Piece. I tried to tell Colin to watch One Piece years ago. If he would have listened to me, he would have been caught up by now. But it's never too late to watch One Piece. Labra said she was going to give birth to a hand. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him.
I mean, we've already seen it happen once before, so why not?
Well, I can think of one good reason why not. And you just said it. It already happened before.
Yep. I will say, though, I thought the payoff in the Raw 1000 was damn hilarious.
Yeah, what was it? I don't remember. Oh, when the giant hand shows up, like the guy in the hand costume?
Yep.
I mean, what else could you do at that point? Did you get double billed for New Japan World this month? I don't think so. I know they were asking people about it. Let me check my bills on air. That's exciting. Hey, while I'm doing that, you guys got anything else? The good hands. Lab rat. The good hands. Now where would I see that bill? That would probably be in my... Huh? I'd have to pull it up on my PayPal thing. I don't know if I have that app installed. Either way, though, since New Japan World is a steal at twice the price, I wouldn't care if I did get double billed. I've got my money's worth out of that. But that's the thing, when you're a baller like me, you don't notice things like double billings or whatever. You barely even pay attention to your accounts. I've just got so much money, I can't keep track of every nickel and dime that comes through these accounts here. Yeah, they got to get that money for Sasha. Got to get the money for Sasha. We need Sasha. So good old Sasha. Mercedes Moné. She and Kyrie worked really hard in their match and had a nice match at the Battle in the Valley. I'm sure CM Punk got his money's worth. They didn't look like they were off. Can of Spaceman wants me to donate money to the Human Fund. It is people helping people. I'll tell you what, Cancer. I'll make a donation in your name. How about that? That's a nice gift for you.
That is a pretty sweet gift.
Bailey was also there. Yeah, of course. That's her backyard. She better be there. Now, that's funny though, because I mean, wasn't that the 18th? Wouldn't that have been Elimination Chamber night?
Good question.
Who was the guy that couldn't take his pants off in New Japan? I don't know who you're referring to.
He's definitely never working for Vince McMahon.
That's right. Yeah, I'm not sure. That could be. Well, the guy that takes his pants off as a gimmick in New Japan is Taichi, but I assume you're referring to somebody else that was having a little bit of struggle with their gear, and I'm not sure who that was. Tom Lawler? Tom Lawler does a thing where he pulls his shorts down to reveal a pair of tights that looks like a pair of shorts. Like he's got Daisy Dukes on, and then he pulls his Daisy Dukes off, and then like he's got trunks that just look like airbrushed Daisy Dukes. Yep. Yeah, Taguchi took off his pants and pinned someone. Yeah, he's always doing that. He's always doing that gimmick, hitting people with his ass and stuff, pulling his tights down, or someone else pulling his tights down. But I don't think that's it. If it's a white guy, I don't know. If it's a white guy, he's probably not in the main New Japan roster. He's probably just one of the stateside guys. But other than Tom Lawler, I couldn't tell you who else. It was Tom Lawler? Okay. Phil Baroni killed his girlfriend in Mexico? Oh. So.
Oh, boy.
What was that? Is that breaking news or? Yeah, I would, not to make light of the situation, but I would recommend against doing that or things like that.
Yeah.
Oh. Colin says that's old news. Well, we need new news. We need questions or we're going to leave. We will walk right the hell out of this Impact Attack right now. If the best that you could do is come up with old murders. But, yeah, I don't, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, Battle in the Valley. So ladies had a nice match. I still didn't watch the main event yet, but I watched the rest of the show. They had a weird match with Homicide and Tom Lawler with no ropes. Jay White free agent. Does New Japan let him go? well, that's the other thing. So he had a match with Eddie Kingston that was suddenly, like very suddenly and abruptly made into a loser leaves New Japan match. So Jay White loses back on the 11th. Jay White loses a loser leaves Japan match. Then he loses this hastily stipulated match with Eddie Kingston of loser leaves New Japan. And then Eddie Kingston beats him. So, I mean, the writing's on the wall. He's probably out of there. But at the same time, I don't like the way they kind of did that because it makes it seem like the company agreed to a stipulation that would take one of their bigger stars and just throw them in the trash. You know what I mean? Like Eddie Kingston with New Japan is a part-timer at best and only in the American stuff. So that would be like the WWE agreeing to let Roman Reigns do like a loser leaves WWE match. Yeah, I see no problem with this. We can do fine. You know, like you wouldn't normally financially, a company would not, they'd be like, no, you can't leave New Japan. But in wrestling, this happens all the time. You know, it's an old territory thing. That's how you get a guy out of a territory so he can go somewhere else and then come back later. It's like, hey, I'm back, you know? They don't really do that as much. I mean, I guess he could someday come to New Japan and say, hey, I'm back. But this kind of sounds like it's not. Who knows? Yeah. And Kenny Omega, as far as him being a free agent, I don't know. He's got a good gig where he's at. Apparently, you know, why do all the back and forth? I don't think he'd want to go back to Japan and do like the traveling back and forth thing, but he is also currently the New Japan United States champion. So, which that should be the New Japan Strong version of the heavyweight title, should be their United States championship. It only makes sense. But
exactly, like, okay, this is the guy who's the man in our US branch.
Right. And instead, it's not. And it never has been. And it should be. Hey, look, New Japan may be my favorite. Doesn't mean they're perfect. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's got their own pluses and minuses. You know, when it comes to presenting their company, nobody's getting it 100% right. I don't even know if there is such a thing as 100% right. Some of the stuff is up to personal opinion, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Jay White's going to do. If he's appeared in AEW. Impact is too small for him, I think. So, and I don't think you would have liked how AEW, like, they didn't really get any hardly mileage out of him. So he may be interested in testing the WWE waters. I know the WWE's interested, so.
And plus, he's got the Good Brothers to vouch for him.
Yeah. Has a Yank held the New Japan US title yet? Oh, yeah, several. John Moxley, Juice Robinson, Lance Archer. Who else? Kenny Omega was actually the original holder, but he's from Canada, so I don't know if you call him a Yank. He's white.
Does that count? I think he's still technically Gaijin.
Yeah, but I mean, since it is the United States title and not the North American title, you know, we can exclude Canada. So I was just thinking of those guys. You missed Ben Hami's take on how if the AEW video game tanks and Omega gets the blame if he is still at AEW. Well, is that really a take? I think that's kind of just a fact. Like, he spearheaded this project. So the blame is gonna be on him and Don Stevens, but I also don't, I ultimately, there's no way that Tony Khan is gonna approve a project like that and not assume some responsibility as well. You know, I'm looking at the budget of the game, and I'm looking at what I'm supposedly getting from the game, and I'm thinking pretty much literally all of the budget of this game must have gone to licensed music, because what else would cost that much? Like, how much can you really be paying these people to make this? There's no way that you could pay somebody $80 million or whatever the rumored number is. I'm sure nobody's gotten the number right, but let's just throw that money out there. We know games are expensive to make, but go ahead, Brandon.
They said it was a 7-figure number.
Yeah, a 7-figure number. So at least in the single digits of millions, right?
Double digits of millions. I'm sorry, 8.
Well, that's an 8 digit. That's an 8 digit
figure.
Number.
Sorry.
All right. So if it's an 8-digit number, then you got to be. It's like, okay, we're paying Cult of Personality. We're paying, the Kansas, like whatever. Like it has to be. It's got to be like the licensed music that people are using. That's taking up big chunks of that money, because the game doesn't look like it's not like revolutionary technology or anything. So.
Yeah, I remember Clerks spent more money on music rights than production, but that actually turned a profit.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we'll see. And Liz also says it's not like WWE's games where they have the history of superstars that they are leveraging in the game. Yeah, right. A lot of these guys are never going to be in a video game again and have never been in a video game for good reason. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'll buy it. I got a stream to do. I'm sure everybody's going to want to see me play that game. So, and it's going to piss Big Ray off that I'll play that game and not WWE 2K. So that right there is worth it. But yeah, I'd buy that for $1. Speaking of which, I can do a little bit of my plug now, but on the Next Level Wrestling review this week, we've got Mr. Sexy Time himself, Kevin Panetta, joining us. So, Dollar Club Wrestling in the hizzy. Please have muffins while I play. That's an idea. It's an idea. You should get 2K23 just to screw with Ray. Well, he already asked me if I'm going to get that one. It's like, so I already said no. So that wouldn't work. But I think the AEW thing will work. I think that'll work. And I like those games. If Kenny Omega is as big of a fan of those games as he claims to be, if he's half as big of a fan of his games as he claims to be, then it should be a pretty good game, because all he's got to do, I mean, he hired the wrong company to make it, first of all. You shouldn't have hired Ukes if you wanted to make that game. You should have found what's left of Aki, which is now a company called Sin Sophia, and they make like mobile games that have like princesses racing horses or some shit like that. But I'm sure that there's some people that remember how to make a good old-fashioned wrestling game, and if you would have hired them to make the game, then you probably get even closer. Yeah, I always like those. I like the classic Nintendo 64 and Virtual Pro Wrestling, games. Like, those are my favorite wrestling games. So if this game is like that, then I don't care how much blood is in it or how many beach balls or whatever other stupid shit they put in the game. If the engine is solid and it's fun to play, then the other stuff's just window dressing. And if Hook's not in the game, I'll be furious.
Send Hook.
Send Hook. Did Big Ray ever get his PS5? Of course he did. Will this game come out before the end of 2030? Of course it won't. I don't know. It'll probably come out this year. It's got to at some point. All you got to do to piss off Big Ray is bring up that podcast host he doesn't like. Oh yeah, do that. Buckshot Kid saying goodnight. Good night, Buckshot Kid.
Later, homie.
Yeah, I wonder how many wrestlers in the game will still be in the roster when it comes out. That's what I was wondering, because they kept signing guys while they were in development. So it's like, is that another reason it's getting pushed back? It's like, oh, we got to make Keith Lee now. Oh, we got to make, like, you got to make CM Punk. We got to make these guys. We got to make, you keep having to, you wouldn't want to not have certain guys in there, but I don't know. We'll see. You can all see, at the very least, none of you have to play it, but I'll play it for you. All right. Well, I think we're kind of winding down here. Laugh Rat. That was going to have a special get a free copy of the game when you sign up for Honor Club. That's right. Honor Club released their pricing plan, I think, or their availability. I don't know if it's available yet, but at least they announced something that they're going to do with it, which is good. Which I said I would sign up for it, and I intend to honor my word just as soon as it's actually up and running. Because last time I checked, it wasn't. So, but they're gonna run Ring of Honor weekly shows on their Honor Club as a streaming service, I guess. So now we'll see what form Ring of Honor will actually take from here on out. I guess it's probably the best thing they could do. They're not going to get that on a channel. I still would have just said, hey, let's just turn Rampage into Ring of Honor Hour, but save money, something like that. But what gets more subs, Honor Club or Impact Plus? I don't know.
That'd actually be a tough one to call.
Yeah, I mean, you mean now, or like after they actually start running new content on Honor Club? That'll be the question. But I just, personally, I don't need to sign up for Honor Club because I really don't care. But paying for content that includes Mark Briscoe is something that I feel like doing. Like, I will, if I will make sure that Mark Briscoe gets a few pennies from me. So. Impact is 20 a month? No, it's like 8 a month.
Yeah, I want to say like 8.
Nobody can justify charging much more than that. No. Unless you're fucking Netflix or something. But they do like 20 a month. But they also got a lot more content than just wrestling. So, has Mark Briscoe always sounded like the Water Boy? Yes. Yes. And you can also, I think you can, like, besides just the Impact Plus app, I think on YouTube, if you become like a member, it's kind of the same thing. Maybe. I'm not sure, but they added a membership program on there. So, because I remember watching one of the pre-shows on the YouTube for free, and the people in the chat had little badges and stuff next to their names that you get when you sign up to be a member of somebody's YouTube channel. And I think they had pricing plans that were somewhat in line with Impact Plus. So it may have just been like an alternative. I think they have the same content, but yeah. I'm not going to go watch old Impact. I already watched it all. I don't want to watch it again. I don't need to relive the history of TNA. I saw it from the beginning, back when it was $9.99 a week. Think about that. For the people that are talking about Netflix and their price hikes, which, let's face it, nobody likes a price hike, but it used to cost you $40 a month to watch TNA.
I mean, and it wasn't
for just 8 hours.
I mean, and it wasn't really a bad thought process that they had. They're thinking, okay, well, if you're going to spend, $40 a month for one pay-per-view, well, how about 4 pay-per-views a month for that price?
Yeah, no, you're right. And it was the only way to see it. Because people weren't, back then, they weren't as heavily, it wasn't just assumed that everyone was going to pirate everything off the internet. And it was hard to do, too. Like, it's easier now. There wasn't really streaming. You would have to, like, torrent it, download it, whatever. And with those dial-up internet speeds, not that easy. If you were rich, you might have DSL. So, yeah. All right. Well, I think that's enough. That's enough for one day. We've given our over-deliverage of content for the week. And Brandon, where can they find more personalized content from you?
You can always find me at twitch.tv/MissTia the Transarchist, as well as on Twitter at TransarchistTia. And this Wednesday, if you're listening to this live, this Wednesday I will be on the A Show with April Hunter and Big Ray Hernandez.
All right.
Yep. And if you are listening to this on Channel Attitude, it may be live. I'm not 100%, or might be on the ready to go. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, you can catch it on the usual places you can listen to podcast at.
All right. Yeah, definitely on, they're going to go live on YouTube on Wednesday. So check it out if you can. Do you guys know what you're going to be talking about already? The topic?
I mean, we're kind of going to hammer out a little bit, but we kind of got an idea of where we're going.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yes, stay tuned for that. As for me, earlier that Wednesday, you will see me on the Next Level Wrestling Review with Big Ray Hernandez, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, in which we will welcome our guest, Kevin Panetta from the Dollar Club Wrestling, PWC, and HMG. At times he's had guest spots, but it's the first time we've had him on there. So we're going to talk to him all about NXT, and that's going to be a good time. Of course, every Monday, the Impact Attack. If you watched this weekend, I made a run in on the Smack Attack again with the Andrew Bello, who we had on our NXT show last week. We had Andrew Bello on, and he's continuing the podcasting tour on Smack Attack, and I jumped in with Bello and John to talk about Sami Zayn's emotional entrance on SmackDown, and they didn't watch the show, but I just quickly ran over a couple of notes, and then we BS'd about lots of other things. So if you want to hear people talk about anything but wrestling, then check out that episode of the Smack Attack on channelattitude.com. And then you can also find me on, I'll tell you where you can find me. You can find me on Wrestling with Rip Rogers, Q&A. They just had an anniversary show. Wrestling with Rip Rogers turned 1 year old this week and this past Friday. And there were lots of guests that a lot of you guys would know because joining the show as special guests are such luminaries as Santino Marella, the director of Authority of Impact, popped in to say hello and share some stories. Deonna Purrazzo popped in to say hello and listen to some stories. And we had, who else do we have? We had Victor from the Ascension. We had so many people. One half of the Outrunners, Turbo Floyd was on there. And Mikey Mondo popped in at the end. And I was there. So, you can see all your favorites, including me, on that on YouTube. It's still up free for anybody to check out. Wrestling with Rip Rogers anniversary special. And that's I think that's just about it for the plugs. So there we go. So check out Next Level Wrestling Review, and then after you're done with that, just check out the A Show. Just clear your Wednesday, okay? Clear your Wednesday, because we're gonna be all over it. And so that's going to do it for us now. We're over this. For Brandon, I'm the vet, and